Josh Pate shared this yesterday on Twitter. Our man Josh Pate. This was on a Reddit board, and Joe, you're gonna love this. I gotta pull this up and show you what happened. This was. I'm just gonna say this. Homeboy is not coming to. He is not going to go back to Ireland. So this was a dude from Ireland asking about college football in October, and I'm going to read this for those of you listening. Hi, I'm a 36-year-old Irish guy. I'm taking a road trip in October, which will see me coming through Tuscaloosa, seeing an American football game and finding a tailgate party. Not even fully sure what they are, but people say they are great. Are top of my agenda, and some people have mentioned this would be a good place for it. Is there a team here? Are there games in October? Is it hard to get tickets? How do I get to a tailgate party and drink copious amounts of beer? Well, I know how to do the drinking bit already. Okay, so Joe, what are the chances he just never goes back home?
I feel like he might just live here every football season now.
Yeah, he ain't going back home. So this is your first experience for an American football game will be a SEC football game in October. You're not going back home, buddy. You're not going back home to Ireland. You're staying. So I'm going to say I want to do this to spark a debate. Okay, Jaru, somebody from Ireland is coming to America. Some foreigners coming to America wants to experience college football. What atmosphere do you take him to? Where do you take him?
I don't want to steal Brad Crawford's flow, but I'd really have to say probably not Tennessee right now when the program's at a peak, or Baton Rouge. I just feel like those are the two epitomes of college football right now, which especially when you're considering not just the stadium, but also the tailgate scene and everything going on around the stadium that you'd want somebody to see. I'd have to say those two. Also, a sidebar. Why is he taking who's coming from Ireland and taking a road trip through Alabama and Mississippi? Why were those the states he picked?
That's a really good question. So when I was in Europe, I will say people are very intrigued by that are intrigued by American culture. They're specifically intrigued by Southern culture. Like people love, like I remember my cab driver in France was a big country music fan. Loved all country music. Didn't speak a lick of English, but loved country music. And I mean, so they're very intrigued by Southern culture in America. So maybe that's why he wants to go through. So this is, I'm going to say it. And y'all know I'm not Homer because I talk about the loudest stadium with LSU and other different things. I never reflexively Tennessee's the best, but it's Neyland Stadium. If you want the best environment possible, it's Neyland Stadium because there's two things that make something crucial. And you're right, Tiger Stadium is close, but there's two things that make something crucial. Actually, three. There's the environment. There's the environment surrounding the stadium on game day. There's the town itself. And then there's the stadium itself. Now, if it wasn't for the stadium, guys, the answer would be Athens. Athens is the prettiest college town in America. It has amazing food. The pregame tailgate and all that is so much fun. The problem is Sanford Stadium is lame. It's lame. It's not loud. I don't care what happened last year with Tennessee and Georgia. Sanford Stadium does not get rowdy. So you got to throw Sanford Stadium out. Tiger Stadium is close. My issue with Tiger Stadium, Jaru, I've been there, is there's not a lot. There's a lot to do in Baton Rouge, but there's not a lot to do around the stadium. You see what I'm saying? As far as if I remember correctly, there's tailgating around the stadium, but there aren't a lot of like bars and restaurants that close to the stadium, if I remember correctly, with Tiger Stadium. Now you can. I'm sure you've been there more recently.
I guess you're right because all of their bars are in one area. And it's not near the stadium. It's probably like half a mile away.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So that's my one criticism of Tiger Stadium. I would say that Neyland Stadium, Knoxville is the best combination of a town, the surrounding environment, and the stadium itself. Tuscaloosa is a pretty good one, though. I mean, Tuscaloosa is a pretty good one. So it's between those two. I would say it's between those two. I'll say this: depending on when you go, you don't want to do the 3:30 kickoff in Tuscaloosa in October, though. It's a brutally hot place for those 3:30 kickoffs. The Neyland is also the best because of the backdrop. Let's call it let's call a spade here. When you go to Neyland Stadium and it's 3:30 and it's October and you got that fall, like crisp, like smoky feel in the air and you see the Smoky Mountains in the background, like you don't get a better football vibe and a better fall vibe than Neyland Stadium during that time, particularly with all the orange everywhere. So I'm going to be honest. Neyland Stadium is number one. I think Knoxville is where you take somebody for a football game in October if you want to get them hooked on American football. What about you?
Yeah, and Knoxville gives you both sides. You've got like the college town-esque part of it, which would be like campus, and then you also present them with like a southern downtown with like 4 or 5 restaurants in Market Square that all serve chicken and waffles. Like you get both sides of the like Southern American argument for somebody who's not from here. So hopefully his road trip will divert, which I also think a road trip through Tennessee would be a lot better than through Mississippi or Alabama. Even like you said, Athens maybe not be the best stadium, but like I would much rather road trip through Georgia than Alabama or Mississippi. That's just me. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even a debate on that. Yeah, I mean, when I go home to Memphis, a lot of times when I drive from DC to Memphis, I drive through Tennessee, and that's a fun drive because you can stop in Knoxville, Nashville, Lebanon, just a lot of different spots to stop in. My mom lives in Alabama. When I drive to Alabama from DC or from Alabama to DC, that drive is horrible. That drive is horrible. Nobody wants to drive through North Alabama. Sorry, North Alabama. That's a boring place to live. Just like Auburn on the southern portion of the state is a boring place to live. Just a lot of places in that state is boring. At least Mississippi, I will say Oxford is actually pretty nice. And then the Gulf Coast is pretty nice. Now, the part of the reason the Gulf Coast is nice is I'm sure Southern Miss was stealing welfare funds to help like make it look nice.
I don't think I would not call Biloxi very nice beach-wise, but maybe casinos, you could argue.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Biloxi. Oh my gosh, I just saw Mr. Jones's last cut. Oh, you guys, this is a family-friendly show. Rocky Top Tom is asking if we've tailgated with the Vol Navy on a Saturday. I have actually not tailgated with the Vol Navy, but that's a great point. The Vol Navy adds to the ambiance of Tennessee football's environment that no other real stadium really has. I think Washington's the only one that has tailgating on the water. And let's be honest, would you rather go to Washington or Knoxville for a college football game? I mean, so
yeah, imagine putting a European on a boat and say we're going to tailgate on the river outside of the stadium. Like it just, I don't think you can really compare that to anything else.
I agree. There's no way. I mean, it's so incredible, and I mean, it's so the whole experience. Yeah, no, Neyland Stadium wins in October. It does. It's the best experience. See, guys, I'm not a Tennessee hater. I don't hate on Tennessee for everything. I am just an objective, call it like it is type of person. Neyland Stadium is the best, but Sanford Stadium would be the best if they closed in the stadium to make it louder. But sorry, I know Rocky Top Tom, you're going to talk about the 9 pre-snap penalties by the O-line at Georgia. It's still not a loud place. Sanford Stadium is kind of lame. It is. It's kind of lame. And so I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Sanford Stadium and the Big House are probably the 2 lamest stadiums for a big-time college football program. What's another one, Joe? What's a lame stadium for like a powerhouse program?
Ohio State.
It is. I've actually never been to Columbus. The Horseshoe's lame.
Well, from everything I've been told, I've never been either, but it didn't even make the top 10. And apparently, while the Horseshoe's like cool and everybody says it's rowdy, all the noise goes out one side. So.
Oh, never thought about that. Yeah, because that's a good point. And then, of course, I think my guess is the Coliseum is probably lame too. USC, it's probably pretty lame because
yeah, I could see stadiums that are on campus like that have to be. I mean, you've got like there's nobody. Neyland Stadium is on like the middle of campus, and then imagine having to drive 45 minutes for a football game as a student. Like it just doesn't. You're not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And also USC and Miami fans just don't care that much about football. So it's totally, there's just, I will never forget Tennessee going to Miami in 2003, and it's like, oh, they beat Miami on the road. I'm like, no, the story is they beat Miami. Beating Miami on the road, it's like that could have been like a home game for them. Miami's got the worst fans in all of college football. I'm hearing, see, Mr. Jones brings up Texas. I've heard Texas is actually not that loud, funny enough, too. I've never been there, but I guess we'll find out with them in the SEC now. And Rocky Top Tom says, inversely, and I hate Tech, he says Virginia Tech fans have a crappy program, crappy stadium, and they get nuts for some football. Yeah, I hear Virginia Tech fans are pretty wild. I would love Virginia Tech in the SEC. I think Tennessee and Virginia Tech would be a naturally great SEC rivalry, honestly, given those two programs.
The Battle of Appalachia.
Yes, the Battle of Appalachia. That would be that'd be so epic.